from Sin Samurai. Happy New Year. I hope you guys all had a great Christmas. January 3rd now, yeah. And thank you, man, for 100 subscribers. I don't even know if that's good or bad, but it feels pretty good to hit 100. Thank you all for watching and staying tuned. If anyone's new here, hit the sub button and like it and see what we can do here. Let's make a little first one for the new year, shall we? Sin Samurai loves you. time for me, save some time for me tonight. Save some time for me between all of the fighting, fighting every day again. Save some time for me, save some time for me again. Save some time for me and all the fighting, Save some time for me, some time for me. Save some time for me, some time for me. Save some time for me. Yeah, save some time. Alright, that's some Sin Samurai. I hope you liked it. That's the 100 sub video. Happy New Year. And I think it's gonna be a good one. I love you all, and thanks for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. You don't know how much I appreciate it. Sin Samurai.
The level of commitment that man has.
Sin Samurai. I was mowing the lawn about a week and a half ago, and I told Sammy, I said, "Look, man, I'm gonna go on your playlist, and I'm gonna play every song, all 111 songs, every time I mow the grass, so I could just vibe out on what you was doing in the past too."
Yeah, that was.
And the further back you go in the past, the different character you see on his show. Like he's 100% different than what he was 2 or 3 years ago.
The one thing that's never changed is the level of commitment.
The level of Sin Samurai.
The laugh is still there. The voice is it's little Michael Jackson going on there.
Sin Samurai.
Yeah.
I must have heard that fucking Sin Samurai like 100 times already mowing the lawn. Sin Samurai.
You want to put something in the background, or
yeah, I could do something.
okay?
A little something. Or them little knocks that's going on. Somebody's knocking at the door. Hello, everybody.
There we go.
Save some time for me. How'd that sound? Pretty good?
Yeah, definitely.
Trying to be official.
Alrighty, let's get this
Yeah.
kicked off.
Yeah. Okay. So, about maybe
Was it like 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago. We came into the
Yo.
record.
About 2 weeks ago, I believe.
He
About
would be.
2
He would be
weeks?
more. He looks like he's accurate.
That's the thing. When Colin answers a question, I would not bet against
Yeah.
it.
No.
Girl. That's
No.
I looked at him once and I could tell he was accurate.
I would love to sit on a conversation and just listen. I don't want to be involved
right.
between Colin and Wagyu.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine that
That
conversation?
would be insane. And I know Wagyu will be here a little later. I know Jervis is still rocking right now. So
Yeah, we have a viewer and his name is Wagyu, and this dude is he knows a lot of stuff, and so we call him Wagoogle. Because he's like our Google. And whenever we have like, oh, I wonder if, and we're like, is Wagyu in the chat? He'll know. And sure as shit, if he's in there, boom,
He don't like
He's-
pressure though. He caved under pressure.
he's answered.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah. But when it flows with that man, it flows.
that don't mean you had pressure on you, did it?
No, doesn't.
Well, I mean, I certainly have a sort of nervous anticipation.
Okay. All right.
I
Of
mean,
the
Yeah.
unknown, right?
Yeah, because
Well,
Colin,
yeah.
Colin traveled from Fort Wayne, and he's like, "Where am I going, and why am I doing this?"
What the did I sign up for?
If
Well,
someone mentioned,
just a new experience, you know.
yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
New experiences are like an adventure,
Very
you know,
much so.
and on that adventure, you can hope for the best outcome, right? You don't know what you're gonna get, but I think knowing you don't know what you're gonna get is what makes the adventure all that
Yeah.
much grand,
It's a line of blind faith.
right?
It's trust. Now, if you had pulled up and we were outside of some raunchy ass ghetto,
It'd be like, nah, I'm going
yeah,
back.
yeah.
He probably wouldn't open the door. He probably would have said, I left that hollow cove right at your doorstep.
If you had saw Mads run out with a half a shoe chasing some like 3 or 4 kids with diapers on, their ass would not be pulling up.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Damn, that's solid. That tells me this man does not judge. Colin, what's your last name?
McAllister.
McAllister.
Colin,
Of course it is.
That is the
Colin,
whitest
You have a
last
white
name
name, sir.
I ever.
I
Have,
love those
Irish
sandwiches, though.
ancestry, if
Irish?
I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
that's
it?
real
Oh,
white.
God.
That's real white.
Yeah.
Man, them sandwiches are bomb, though. I'm telling
What,
you.
from McAllister's?
Kelly, yeah.
Hell yeah, they
no
good.
affiliation. But I
Damn,
definitely
too
get
bad.
mentioned.
They good as fuck though.
Yeah.
But they good though.
That's a
Type
shame.
shit.
He hurry up and said no affiliation.
Nah,
What are they
sorry.
called? The spuds or the potato? What I don't know what they call it.
The spuds.
The
Spuds.
spuds.
Yeah.
Those spuds are killer.
Yeah, McAllister.
Well, I also get references to Home Alone directly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Colin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin
He was
McAllister.
Kevin, Colin.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. The McAllisters. Yeah. So, Home Alone, you were a young man when Home Alone came
How old are you?
out, too, huh?
You're 30.
I'm 34 years
34.
old, born in December. So depending on exactly when that movie came out, I was probably like -2
Yeah.
months old.
Probably.
Something
Not
along
even a
those
thought.
lines.
Yeah.
Not even a thought.
You were
Well, no,
just-
he was a thought. He was cooking.
Yeah, he
He
was
was
just
cooking.
swimming
He
in
was
the
in the
nutbag.
oven.
Yeah, he was cooking. He was cooking up some beets in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right along with a million trillion other little sperm cells.
Right.
Speaking of beats, I'm curious, do you play music or anything like that?
I at least tinker around with the guitar and bass that I have.
Oh,
I've
nice.
never
Okay.
been formally trained in anything like that.
No one
I,
here
I,
either.
I couldn't do like a C chord if
Right,
you
right.
press me for it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I like to plug it in, just kind of noodle around with it and see what happens, see what
Nice.
works, see
Yeah.
what doesn't. I'm not proficient by any means, but it's something I've had a lot of fun with.
How long have you been
Nice.
doing that?
I want to say about 2011 is around the time that I got a MacBook with GarageBand on it.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
before that, I was tinkering around with my father's old Ross amp. It's only about like, yay big, weighs a metric ton or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's just something I like to have fun with on a weekend. And when I got GarageBand, that's when I started experimenting with a variety of different pedals. Like introducing myself to what a flange sounds like.
Yeah.
That's
the,
awesome.
The indie rock fuzz guitar. I'm just having fun with it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the adventure I was just talking about.
Music is.
Even picking up a guitar or a bass and just not having the ideation of what.
But just Making
just
something
do.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Noodling.
Yeah.
Music is about
Yeah.
noodling.
Mhm.
And I have a stockpile of, little ideas that I've accumulated over the years. I just never really, fleshed them out into actual songs.
Oh, okay.
But, I have my whole life ahead of me,
Yeah.
however long that goes for. And who knows? Maybe one of these days I might actually get around to presenting the
one.
world with a completed song.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Well, here at Sora Radio, we encourage you to do said anomalies.
Yeah.
Get 'em
And then
done.
Feel free to use us as a platform too. It's kind of what we do. Shit. Take us back to early Colin hood, if
Okay.
you will. Like, what was life like? Do you have any brothers and sisters?
No, sir. I'm an only child.
Wait, hang on.
God bless you, man. The search.
We ain't doing that search shit.
How old do we
that,
fucking look, man?
That's goddamn
He's
crime.
He's a
an outrage.
respectable individual.
Yeah.
I guess you're
I
right.
appreciate
Yeah.
it, but God damn,
Yeah.
Colin.
Yeah.
Well,
What was-
I am an only child, and it was an interesting childhood that I had. I was instilled with music from a very early age. I mean, both my parents really enjoyed music and had a decent sized collection. I got a lot of my classic rock taste. Classic rock, psychedelic rock from my mother, and a lot of my hard rock, heavy metal, a lot of the darker music I got from my father. And from there, as I grew into a teenager, I was just kind of exploring all the other genres to see how I like them. And I mean, over time, I found that I actually like a lot of really great music,
Yeah,
no matter
yeah.
what the genre might be.
Right. You're not in the box, sir.
No, I try not to put myself in a box
Yeah,
like ever.
yeah.
I always want to
Yeah.
give something a shot.
That's
Yeah.
that's what was really surprising for us when we went into the record store is the knowledge base that you had not only on music but on all different genres. It just wasn't one specific.
Right.
And it was just insane to just hear you just know a whole bunch of all the genres.
Right.
That's kind of like
yeah.
a custom tailor fit job for you, my boy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's almost kind of like I was destined to be
Yeah.
in a record store because when I was very, very young, like, toddler age, there used to be a Walgreens in Glenbrook Mall where my mom worked. And so when she would get off of shift, she would take me over to NRM, National Record Mart. And I would just, like a little fiend, I would just run up and down the aisles and, pluck out certain CDs and be like, look, Mom, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Look, Mom, Nine Inch Nails. Look, Nirvana.
Yeah.
Because I was growing up around, the alternative.
grunge.
Alternative
Yeah,
90s.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, my parents more often than not were watching MTV, which at that time was still showing a lot of music
Right.
videos, and I couldn't help but gravitate towards something like that. I mean, the Nickelodeons and Cartoon Networks of the world, I wouldn't get into until later when MTV would change their programming to more like, reality TV.
Right.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But growing up with all of that, it just came naturally to me, and I don't know what it was, like a sort of innate talent for it, I guess, if you wanted to call it that. But I would also flip through my parents' Columbia House catalogs that they would get. In
You
the mail.
remember the Columbia
Yes.
I
House
remember.
catalogs where they would
Yeah.
send you those
Yes.
CDs for free?
And
Yeah.
Tower Records.
Or not free, but you had to pay like
Yeah.
a monthly and you
Yeah.
could get like 10 a month or something.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, because this is long before streaming, of course, and so the only thing I would really have to go off of was Beavis and Butthead. They're like
Yeah.
my
Save the
first
world.
music.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And they put it in very concise terms for a toddler like me. Everything was either cool or it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to the National Record Mart just for a tiny bit, for how often I was going in there and drawing attention to all these hot bands at the time, the manager actually kind of pulled my mom aside once, and he told her, like, look, this kid knows more about the music that's going on now than some of my employees. So if we're
Right,
still around
yeah.
when he's like 16 years old, he could very well have a job here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it definitely seems as though I'm destined to, work in a record store and
Yeah.
interact with people who, love being in them too.
Or as a
Yeah.
DJ, or as a musical
that
DJ.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Wagyu said when we were there in the comments. He said, this man is literally where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your childhood like? Like, what were the things you were interested in other than music?
Well, I had a period of a few years where I was interested in like motocross because my dad was, and he would bring home like the Crusty Demons of Dirt.
Yes.
Oh
tapes.
my God.
Liquid
They had
Balls
a
Crew
fantastic
LBZ.
soundtrack.
Yes.
Yeah. We were heavy into dirt bikes.
Let me
That's
ask
why
you
we say
this:
that.
Are you a Travis Pastrana fan?
I do like
Good.
him. I do admire his
good.
athleticism, his
good.
talent.
He's the Godfather,
Yeah,
Well,
because
yeah.
wasn't he? Well,
Yeah,
he
the
was
backflip.
one of the first people, along with Carrie Hart,
Carrie Hart.
to do the backflip
Yeah.
on like an actual motocross
Yeah.
motorcycle.
That's right.
Brian Deegan was coming up in that same time.
and his kid races now.
Yeah.
He's up there with Villapoto and them. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad would also have the little mini bikes too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know who Bubba Stewart is?
Bubba Stewart?
Yeah. James Stewart.
I can't see.
He's
that
the
dude,
only
no.
black, fucking talented national title reigning champion, over Ricky Carmichael.
Yeah. Over Ricky Carmichael. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Check it out.
Check it out.
You gotta check. You've missed a whole
James Stewart, Malcolm Stewart.
Malcolm Stewart, his brother.
What about Kevin Wyndham? You ever hear of that name? Ezra Lusk?
I'm sorry, I can't.
It's all right. It's all right. I've gone too far.
We just wanted to
I
know
I
how
know the
deep you
names
went
that-
into this.
Yeah, we just wanted to know how deep you went.
Yeah.
Well, I know the names Jeremy McGrath, of course.
Yeah.
Seth Enslow.
Seth Enslow,
who was
yeah.
Definitely more of a stunt man when
Yeah.
it came to
Those are the
motocross.
freestyle guys. Yeah.
But-
Except for Jerry McGrath, he
Yeah, he raced.
wasn't really a freestyle guy. He was a track
raced
guy. Yeah,
until Carmichael started to beat the
yeah.
shit out of him.
Yeah. Ezra Lusk.
Yeah, and seeing Seth Enslow do like the long jumps.
Yeah.
And then, just not always stick the landing and just horribly injure himself.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it always made for like interesting entertainment, of course. Let's see, what else did I have as a kid? There was a period of a few years where I was into collecting like rocks and minerals and gems, which I still have a small collection of them. But for the most part, it's primarily just been about music and film for me.
Really? Yeah.
Very much so.
What drew you to film?
Well, again, I have to give a lot of credit to my father for this because on a weekend we would go to like a video stop or a Hollywood Video, as it would later become, and I would just essentially watch whatever he was watching. I mean, one of the first movies I can ever remember watching with him was Friday with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker.
Oh God, I
You're
love
dating
that
me. You're
movie.
dating us right now.
Yeah.
This dude said Friday.
Man.
There's trimmers. There's
Yeah, but that's our thing.
yeah.
But yeah, Friday's a hell of a thing
That's
to pull
a
out of
hell
the
of a
bag.
thing to watch.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially since I was still in like kindergarten. at the
Right?
time.
Yeah. Damn. And how do you okay? Have you always known like this is some kind of special ability that I can retain and remember some of this stuff the way you do?
Well, I guess in my youthful naivety, I was kind of under the impression that most other people had this as well, I guess. But I mean, whenever I would talk to kids in my class about certain bands or certain movies, they would just kind of give me like this blank expression, like I don't really know what you're talking about. I'm into soccer. I'm into baseball, and that's kind of the peers that I grew up with, essentially. But it wouldn't be until much later in my life did I come to realize that it is. I hate to use the word novelty, but it's the first word that comes to mind for me, in terms of almost kind of being like this walking encyclopedia for music knowledge that, again, just comes so naturally to me.
Right. Yeah.
Damn.
Has anyone ever told you, Colin, my guy, your knowledge in the music and movie genre is amazing? I've never encountered a guy like you.
I've heard that every now and then, and believe me, I always take the compliment very well. I mean, I always appreciate it whenever somebody appreciates what I know.
Yeah. Do you pride yourself on being a smart ass? You walk
I
around.
think there's a difference between smart ass and being smart.
Yeah.
Well, I never ever tried to be arrogant with it because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still very much a student of all of this. There's always something
Look at
for
this.
me to learn.
The teacher still
And humbled.
says he's the student.
And humbled. Okay, let's push past the childhood. Actually, wait. I want to ask one more question about the childhood.
Sure.
What's your earliest? We ask this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What's your earliest memory ever?
As it pertains to music,
Anything.
well, I
Anything.
mean, it kind of ties in with music, honestly. I do like to tell this story because sometimes it does kind of freak people out. But
you can't freak us out here, sir.
No. You're on Symptoms of Reality. We
read the name,
okay.
read the title, my good
it's in
sir.
the title.
Well, I mean, one of the first memories I had that kind of made me come online, so to speak, and enjoy the stream of consciousness that I'm living to this day. There was an instance where my dad and I were going to go to the bank, which is about roughly 5 minutes away from where we live. And it was just long enough for us to listen to the first song from 9 Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral.
Oh, yes.
And that first song, Mr. Self-Destruct, it's very loud, it's very aggressive. And towards the end of that song, there's also a swell of just noise that just encompasses you in like the last minute or so of that track. And it honestly scared me so much that I've started crying because, I mean, the mental imagery that I was conjuring in my mind was just of this, big faceless machine with cogs that were just coming apart and whirring at fantastic speed and just, bits and pieces just flying off of it everywhere. And anybody who was, standing within distance of it was probably getting pelted.
Catching shrapnel. Yeah, cog shrapnel.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it scared me so bad that, I just kind of broke down for a moment.
Wow.
And I mean, but that being said, it also instilled like this fascination with me that music could have that kind of power to it. So that does kind of qualify as one of my earliest memories of just being scared by 9 Inch Nails. And, it's probably not really that much of a coincidence that The Downward Spiral is among like one of my all-time favorite records.
Well, fucking Trent Reznor gave you trauma, my good sir.
But it was a good kind of
It was
trauma.
good trauma.
Musical trauma.
But he was great with synthesizer, or he still is great with synthesizers.
Absolutely.
So ultimately, what you were hearing was something he probably, a patch he probably created. But do you remember anything before that? Or was that the thing that the earliest memory you have?
Well, I mean, when I really think back to like my earliest memories, I mean, it's not the first time that question has been asked me, but whenever it is asked, I usually tell the 9 Inch Nails story. But I just have memories of going to like Pine Hills daycare. That was essentially my preschool. Well, okay, there is another story I could share. In Pine Hills, we did have like a show and tell type of day, and I did bring with me like a CD copy of the Presidents of the United States of America's debut album. And I don't know why, but it was just one of those things where I was just kind of fascinated with the album cover.
Yeah.
And of course, I knew the song Peaches from, again, MTV. And, that was essentially my show and tell item. But I think one of the, teacher's assistants or aides or whatever, I distinctly heard one of them say, that is an ugly album cover. Well, I was, presenting it to the class because I liked
What
it.
kid wants to hear that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it just kind of made me really nervous all of a sudden. I might have even started to cry and everything, but it's like, I like it.
Right.
Why'd you have to come in with that?
Right. Yeah. And just so not only is that a crazy memory to have that goes that far back, but you can remember the emotion tied behind it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Because I feel as though, well, it might be, commonplace among a lot of other people that a lot of their first memories almost kind of have a certain element of trauma to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not just that, but what the teacher said.
Right.
Shit, what were the
Well,
kids saying?
I really don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, because other kids were bringing in like their Power Rangers dolls, maybe a certain football that they love to play with. But for me, it was the President's of the United States of America CD.
Wow.
I think I might have borrowed it from the library.
Of course you did.
time.
Of course you did,
Colin.
Yeah.
Of
How
course
old were you at this time?
Probably about 4 years old,
Yeah.
because that album came out in '95, and
Yeah.
I was born very late.
4
in 19.
4 years old.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, he's got a library card at 4 years old.
That's
trading shit.
solid, bro. Like you are.
Do the libraries still do that?
I don't know. Where
Do
you
you
could
know,
check out a-
Colin? Like, do they still have albums and stuff that you can check out from the libraries?
I'm assuming so. It's been a few years since I visited my local library, but I mean, the last time I did, they did still have a pretty healthy CD selection.
I had no
Jeez.
idea
Wow.
libraries did that.
I mean, but we are in still like a part of Indiana where a lot of that stuff is still alive.
Yeah, we have that big library. Remember we
Yeah,
rode our
we
bikes
rode our
by?
bikes past. Yeah, I really want to go in there. They say you
Yeah.
can find your lineage there too.
Oh, wow.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, take us into your teenage years.
Teenage years, absolutely. Especially when I got into.
Take us before you worked at the record store, because that was 16, correct? Okay.
Well, I started working at Wooden Nickel when I was 21.
Okay.
In fact, my very first day at Wooden Nickel.
Wait. Take us to the teens first.
Okay.
I really want to get to that. Yeah.
You're jumping the gun, aren't you?
Oh, sure. Well, in my teen years, I was still on like the outskirts of like the general popularity of my class. I gravitated towards the other guys who were also into music, and we kind of found each other through middle school band, because I played the baritone, or the fancier term being euphonium, and I mean. The saying "water seeks its own level." That's how I came to know some of my friends who I still enjoy their company to this day, and I mean, especially when it comes to something like rap music. I mean, my parents weren't really altogether with it. I mean, and the only exposure that I had to it was artists like Dr. Dre and Eminem. They were really huge in like the late '90s, early 2000s. And it wasn't until, much later in my teen years that I start to expand on that palette, get into Wu-Tang Clan, Notorious B.I.G., The Far Side, among others. But specifically in the teenage years, I was mostly wrapped up in school band. And then later on in high school, I did marching band for all 4 years. And it instilled a lot of discipline in me that, again, I still utilize to this day. I mean, it was just the sheer repetition of doing, the same march over and over again, playing the same, passage over and over again. I mean, it definitely taught me patience, a lot of patience. And it's something that I would highly recommend to any young kid out there who is trying to find their place in the world and just kind of get a rudimentary understanding of what the real world is like. Definitely do marching band, because you will definitely learn.
Yeah, and you'll pick up a brass and get to know your way around it. And
Let me ask you this though, 'cause
Yeah.
you say you got all this rich hip hop history.
this is in the teens, correct? This is all your high school, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. All right. And you're aware of Indiana. You're in Indiana, obviously, right? You're in Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne, born and
Okay.
raised.
Oh,
never
okay.
left.
Local too.
Yeah.
God.
What school did you go to?
I went to Carroll High School.
And what's the demographic in Carroll High School?
Well, to give you an idea, out of a graduating class of 400 people, there was only like maybe 4 black kids.
Okay. This
How
is
many
good.
Mexicans?
Oh, yeah. Go. Yeah, answer that one.
Maybe
You said
anywhere
enough.
between 2 to 5.
How many
It
Asians?
was
How many Asians?
You said enough.
How many Asians? Go
maybe
ahead.
maybe half dozen.
Maybe half a dozen
I
Asians.
cannot
This is good.
stress enough
I
that
love
it
this.
was
No.
the majority, white people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
this
me.
is good. This is good. This is what I want to know.
Colin was
Okay.
like, they're like me.
They were like me. They were my people. This is what I want to know. How many of your white constituents, when you played The Far Side, She Keeps Passing Me By, what did they feel about that?
Well, I don't think I ever played like the Far Side or
Yeah.
Wu-Tang to
Yeah, I bet you
some
did,
of my
Colin.
other friends. It was mostly for me because I was just exploring all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
still kind of fresh to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, Eminem, I had loved ever since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Like right around the turn of the millennium, and I don't know. Given that my parents were never really fans of hip hop, it almost kind of had like this forbidden fruit effect.
This
for
taboo.
me.
Yeah.
And the more I explored it,
Yeah.
the more fun I was having with it. It almost seemed to give me like this sense of confidence.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe just a touch of youthful arrogance as well.
You ever find yourself running around the house, you're just walking out of the shower, you whistling away, you like, oh, niggas this and oh, niggas that, you know.
Well,
You turn the
believe me,
corner, and your
I-
mom was like, what the fuck is my kid talking about?
Well, believe me, I recognize that is totally not
yeah.
my word.
Yeah.
to use. I am out of my element.
Did
when
you
it
feel
comes-
compelled to hang out with black kids after you discovered
Smoke weed.
Smoke
When did you
weed.
discover weed, Colin?
Well, it was right in the summer just after I graduated from high school because I hung out with a group of friends of mine who definitely
Were they black?
smoked no, not
God damn it. Where do black kids come in?
Well, probably much later when I started working at
Yes, of
Burger
course.
King.
Yeah,
that was
but-
my
yes.
first
No,
part-time
wait,
job.
no, okay.
Well, that's where you meet them,
But not
at Burger King.
We'll get there.
Okay, let's
Let's
continue
get
on
there.
with it.
Jesus, get us. Okay,
Jeez.
when you left high school,
Well, yeah, it was the
Marijuana
summer
came
of,
in the picture.
2009, and I hung around with friends who regularly did it, but thankfully they were never like peer pressuring me into doing it. I mean, I think as far as they were concerned, it was probably more weed for them,
Yeah.
But one night,
whatever, dude.
But one night I decided, you know what, I want to do this because I've already been accepted into IPFW.
Okay.
I'm not really seeking a job at this particular moment in my life. Let's have at it.
Yeah.
So we had initially met over at the McDonald's that's on DuPont Road. That's where my friend of mine was working at the time. And I can't remember if it was like a joint or a bong that I smoked out of, but we kind of hid ourselves away in the enclosed dumpster area. I had a few hits of it, and I really don't know what I was expecting at that time because in all the movies I'd ever seen about people smoking weed
Friday,
well they're like hallucinating
Right.
people whenever they're moving are leaving like waves of themselves behind
Yeah.
and like the wallpaper is
Yeah,
moving
totally
and
false.
everything.
Yeah. Movie representation.
That's more like hard psychedelics,
Right. Yeah.
but with weed, after a few minutes, I found that, banging on this concrete post with my hands, the more I did it, the more I'm like, wow, this actually feels really good. That, the vibrations that I'm feeling,
Yeah.
it just feels awesome, you know? And then later that night when I got home and took a shower, like I couldn't stop running my fingers through my hair.
Yeah, weed does that.
The
Weed makes
sensations.
Weed makes you obviously clean the fucking house.
Yeah, it does some
and,
weird things to you, Colin.
Wagyu is asking, is Colin coming on for the shroom stream? And I told him I can only control
okay.
two people at a time.
Wagyu, stand by.
Well, Colin is experienced.
So I
he
said,
could shaman us.
He's
through
no
this.
stranger to the
maybe he can
psychedelics.
come on and help me control you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He could shaman our way through this.
As long as he doesn't partake in the festivities, I think we should get Colin back in here.
Well, he might be able to shaman his way. He could be on the substance and take care of us.
I guess you could.
Well,
Well, I mean, my psychedelics era
Allegedly.
was about 10
Allegedly.
years ago.
Allegedly.
It was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Allegedly 10 years
Do you have a
ago.
shaman's license by any chance?
Yeah, no,
Do they
no,
have
I
a
don't.
shaman's license? You want to just make one up? Mary, can we get Chat GPT to make us up a fictitious shaman license?
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever done mushrooms just once in my life,
Right.
and it was a good experience and all, but
Once is enough.
Once is enough.
yeah, and I've done acid twice in my life.
Twice. Okay, wait. Before we go there, how did the shower Okay, go back to running your fingers through your hair.
And feeling so
Yeah.
luxurious.
Do you mind if I run my fingers through your hair?
Okay.
It feels like white hair.
How did that night end for you?
Well, I mean, I just went to sleep and I started playing my Belay Valentine's Loveless, I think it is. I mean, that's a fantastic record, you know, either sober or not. But yeah, you know, in the subsequent times that I would hang out with my friends, you know, I'd be like, hey, does anybody have some?
Yeah.
You know, and more often than not, they would. And,
Right.
you know, we would drive around just anywhere and everywhere. Like, you know, listening to Animal Collective, specifically
God, yeah.
Merriweather Post Pavilion.
Yeah.
And it's so strange because, you know, the band themselves don't really do drugs, but, you know, their music
It's trippy.
certainly
Right.
sounds like it. Of
Now,
course.
now, did you ever go out and purchase your own, or were you always the guy that was like, if they have it, I'll do it, but I'm not going to go out and
it
buy
wasn't
it?
until like at least a few years after I initially started smoking did I, you know, get in contact with certain friends of mine who knew friends of theirs who dealt weed.
And that's how
And
you
I
got
would
your
always have to like
Allegedly.
be
Allegedly.
allegedly.
You got to have an editor in your background. You will incriminate yourself, sir. Not
Well,
just
I mean-
you, but everyone in the room.
No, I mean my desire to be accurate and truthful has gotten me in trouble.
Yeah,
sometimes.
And that's okay. It's
It's
all
okay.
allegedly.
It's all allegedly.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah.
All allegedly.
Yeah.
But okay, so you.
Oh, Roy Dre Void said Merriweather is my hometown venue.
Oh, really?
Merriweather.
Yeah,
Because that's in Maryland, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
It
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So you dabbled in marijuana. Is this still post you working at the record store?
Oh yeah, I definitely smoked consistently. Well, my daily consumption of it started around like spring of 2017, and that's when I finally got in contact with a dealer who was, you know, reliable,
Allegedly.
consistent.
Allegedly.
You know, he always treated me fair and always gave me great deals on the stuff.
Doesn't that sound weird? My drug dealer allegedly treated me fair, took care of me,
Gave me great deals.
gave me great deals.
Well, yeah, I mean, it certainly helps, and you know, I
does.
certainly
He wants return customers.
does.
Yeah,
Right? So,
this
Well,
guy. Oh, you want
Treat
some
'em
apple
good, they'll
juice?
come back.
Yeah.
I certainly never try to be obnoxious about it. You know,
Right,
I don't,
right.
I don't
Yeah.
like text him at 1 in the
Right.
morning and say, "Hey, have you got some?" You know,
Yeah.
I've never been like
Yeah.
a fiend like
Right,
that.
right.
You
Right.
know?
You ever go to his house and go, I'm Colin, I'm here for your
Well,
marijuana product?
it's very funny
my
that
money.
you mentioned that because, you know, before I met him, I was going through, you know, friends of friends who didn't know me, and by the time I would text them about, you know, what I wanted, where to meet up and stuff like that, apparently my texts were a little too formal for them.
I can tell,
God
Colin.
damn,
I can tell.
Run me through the text. What did the text
hello,
say?
Mr. Drug Dealer. My name is Colin. I'm 5'2". I weigh approximately this and much pounds.
Well, it would be more along the lines of, well, I'm also kind of an English language nerd too. You know, I would go so far as to have like proper grammar and
Hello,
sentence
sir.
structure.
Cool. Isn't
To the
that-
point where,
we
you know,
miss proper
these people
grammar.
would be asking my friends, like, is he legit? Because he definitely sounds like a narc.
Call my drug dealer, sir.
The drug dealer was like, you don't know Colin.
Yeah.
yeah, he's fine. He's fine.
I assure you, he's cool.
Yeah.
You know, just give him what he wants and
Yeah.
let him enjoy it.
Yeah.
Azio had said it perfect, and we probably should pin this to the chat. He said, all these stories, characters, and events are not based on real people or actual events and are any resemblance in purely coincidental.
There you go.
That's it. That's it.
There you go,
Azio
Azio.
Head
The
is
legal
our.
doctrine.
Yeah, he covers our bases.
He's our lawyer.
He's our
Azio Head,
lawyer.
Thank you. I've pinned that to the top so everybody can read it.
Yep. And you need a good Azio head in your
Yeah,
chat
you need a
room.
good Azio head
Apparently.
That's
in your
beautiful.
life.
Yes.
Okay, so it's clear. Okay, are you still dabbling into the marijuana?
I am, yes. But in the interest of full disclosure, I have dialed back on it considerably. To be completely honest with you guys, I did have a medical episode a few months ago. I had an aortic dissection.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah, it was, well, it was essentially like a perfect storm scenario of a bunch of like stress, anxiety, paranoia. I can only assume that like a poor diet also might have had something to do with that. But yeah, it's definitely changed me so that I'm at least being a lot more careful with it. Because beforehand, I was, I wasn't doing it on the job, because there was a time period where I was, waking and baking every morning before I go off to work. And I was only doing that in the hopes that it would just kind of relax me at work, because you gotta understand, I'm an only child who spent the majority of his childhood in his 9x9x11 bedroom. So I'm very much introverted, and working at the record store, it gave me exposure to the general
social
public
continuity there, buddy. Yeah.
for the very first time in my life. And I mean, it definitely freaked me out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I bet,
Walk us through the first day at the record company.
Well, the first day at the record store, I mean, I just wanted to make a good impression on both the business owner, the manager. I essentially wanted to really earn my keep. And for the most part, customers are, fairly easy to handle. I mean, they just want to get in there, find whatever they're looking for. And if they need my assistance, I can certainly help them where applicable. But, there are just times where I'm not really able to help somebody, or somebody is just making things really awkward for me. It's just kind of triggering a certain amount of anxiety within me. I mean, a specific example I can think of is, within the first few months of me working in the record store, there was a skinhead who came through, and I mean, he made it pretty obvious from the outset.
Time out. We have a UK audience here. Elaborate what a skinhead is.
Well, essentially a neo-Nazi who very much, follows the teachings of Hitler, if you will. And, I mean, he's pretty widely well known throughout history as being a very bad person.
Right.
But he still has that amount of influence to where there are certain people out there who still very much follow his ideologies, horrible as they are. And with this particular skinhead, he came into the store, and immediately the first thing I noticed is that he has a giant swastika tattooed on the back of his head. I'm thinking like, oh boy, how's this gonna go? So he asked me where I have my Vanilla Ice CDs.
Oh shit! What?
And well, believe me, he got very excited when I showed them, my very small selection of Vanilla Ice CDs. And as you would imagine, he bought, the To the Extreme album, which has The Hit on it. It just kind of baffled me for years that, he was really into Vanilla Ice. But it wasn't until just a few years ago, I forget how I came into this knowledge exactly, but there was one particular song. It was like, an interpolation of Wild Cherries' Play That Funky Music, White Boy. There's a verse where Vanilla Ice is talking about like stomping hard like a German Nazi. And as soon as I heard that line, I immediately thought of that guy. And I was like,
damn.
And I was like, oh, okay.
That's why he liked it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I did see him 2 more times after that. The second time he had brought a friend in with him who were just kind of shopping around. And then the third time, the skinhead came solo, and, after making his selections and bringing them up to the counter, he's like, hey, do you remember that other guy that I had in here with me? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, he's dead now. Because apparently he had been arrested and was facing a weapons charge where he was going to probably have to do like, anywhere between 10, 20 years, give or take. And he decided he really did not want to do that, so he offed himself.
Wow.
Damn.
And I mean, it was especially that very first year working at Wooden Nickel and just being exposed to the general public, both the good and the bad. It just...
it brought some anxiety on you.
It really did. I mean, I just really didn't know what to expect of people. You know, I have no idea who's going to come in a given day and, you know, just completely ruin my
Yeah.
day. You know?
Right.
I think after that one episode with the skinhead and that tattoo on the back, I think even a normal individual would be like, the fuck did I just get myself
Well,
into?
yeah, it's like,
And
how
like,
does he gain the confidence
Yeah.
to just go out into the wild with an airbrushed T-shirt that says, "Yes, I really hate Jews" on it?
yeah,
Right,
that's
yeah.
insane.
Well, the universe cleaned that problem up really quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we
Well,
don't
I
have to-
mean, you know, especially these days, it's you know even kind of encouraged to
Yeah.
maybe wail on. And
Yeah.
Right,
you know,
right.
try to
Yeah.
put
But
some
what
sense
makes you
into them.
think that? Why would that guy confide into you?
Maybe he's lonely. Maybe his crappy ideologies kind of isolate himself from
Yeah.
anybody who he
Yeah.
might have a meaningful connection with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've played front counter therapist for so
I
many
can
people
imagine
you
over
do,
the
yeah.
years. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just something about working in a record store and being the only person on staff
Yeah.
at any particular moment.
What I find interesting is
Mm-hmm.
that you said you have all these like these conditions from it, but yet you find a way where it's not debilitating. You fucking drove from Fort Wayne to here, so you still allow yourself some sort of judgment of character and some sort of room to not be so introverted. Like you'll
Well,
still
I-
escape your own confines.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to encourage myself to say yes to more things.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just trying to get myself out there because I mean, all that isolation, it does tend to get lonely.
Just
but-
be careful what you say yes to.
Exactly.
And that was my point, though. What she just brought up. What made you say yes to these two? They come into the store. They just want to look for music, but
Honestly-
something about them says, "Oh, these are fucking upright citizens."
Well, more than anything, it was just the encouragement.
Yeah.
And also the friendliness, the great reception to whatever I might have been saying or talking about. And certainly eclectic taste certainly gave me the notion that I should definitely follow up on something like this, just to see what you guys are all about.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to read a comment before it gets too
Okay,
far out.
yeah.
It's pretty hilarious. It's from Wagyu, also known as
Get
Fat
used to
Google.
this name, Wagyu.
Yeah,
He's been waiting for your arrival
Yeah,
for,
Wagyu.
I don't know, 2 weeks now.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Wagyu says, "Dear Sir, Madam, I am looking to procure some organic refinements to take me on a voyage to trip out city.
Yes.
When would be an appropriate time to align our physical locations to make this transaction?"
That's a Wagyu. That's a Wagyu.
Wagyu thought.
That's a Wagyu statement.
But I think he's meaning that's what's Colin
Yeah.
texting.
Well,
Is that how your text went? How did that text go?
Well, maybe nothing along those lines.
Yeah,
But, it was definitely the correct grammar, the sentence structure, correct punctuation. Essentially utilizing my English language skills
Properly, right? Yeah.
to communicate
Yeah.
my wants, and just trying to be as congenial as
It,
possible.
Right,
it
yeah,
amazes me.
Because I
that-
recognize that I'm in a very delicate situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
With, marijuana being illegal still.
Right.
And, I just want to demonstrate, like, hey, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm just nerdy.
I just like this drug.
But it shocks me that people will assume something otherwise if you're using proper grammar and your punctuations and stuff, right? Like that. Like they always associate like having to want like weed and stuff with somebody who quote unquote is less educated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just
Right.
so
It's a stigma.
bizarre. Yeah,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me. Like it's
What's
insane.
What's that TV sitcom with Sheldon? Is that Third Rock?
Well,
No.
that was a Big
Big
Bang,
Bang
Big Bang
Theory,
Theory.
and then Young Sheldon.
You
Yeah.
remind
Like
me
a
of
spin-
Sheldon.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine Sheldon
kinda
going to go
hope-
buy some weed.
Yeah.
And you're like throwing out these fucking theorems and things. You have that persona about you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that I don't come across as that nerd.
No,
no.
It's
But
just,
very
it's
proper.
just the way you
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
is so goddamn. It's just You
It's
got
very
yeah.
polite. It's
very
proper.
cordial.
Well,
And-
I just want to give respect. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
And
what the world is
Yeah.
lacking.
And that's what
Yeah.
amazes me is that the assumption is if you're into that type of stuff, you don't hold yourself to that standard. Do you know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
at least don't want to perpetuate a stereotype. That
Right.
Oh, listen
Yeah.
to me.
stoners are,
Listen
like,
to me, dude.
slovenly
If my
or-
brother and I had you as friends during our weed years,
Yeah.
we would be smart by now. We'd be saying things like pontificate.
Tone Smith says, I know this dude is not a narc, but the narc energy is hilarious.
It's hilarious. Could you
That's fair.
imagine?
That's
Hilarious.
fair.
People are like smoking weed with one eye on the
Yeah.
dude, like he's gonna whip that fucking badge out any moment.
Has,
I know it.
has anyone said, you might be autistic?
I mean, I certainly recognize it as a possibility. I've never been formally tested, but
Mm-hmm.
if I was, and if I did land somewhere on the spectrum, it wouldn't really surprise me.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
shit! Self-diagnosis, people, right here.
Probes said anyone asking for vanilla ice would ruin my day.
Yeah.
Right? God damn, Probe, you're right about
One
that.
hundred percent probes.
I mean, I don't know. Vanilla Ice was cool, I guess.
I mean, Sin Samurai loves that shit.
I guess.
He was
I mean,
cool
Sammy
for a
loves it.
few months in 1990, maybe 1991, but I mean, his career trajectory is insane because it seems like he just skyrocketed and then just
fell off.
Right.
And now he's
Really
back
hard.
up riding dirt bikes and doing some other things that are
and flipping houses
and flipping
too.
houses.
Roy
you know?
Boyd said vanilla ice was never cool.
Yeah,
Well,
Royd.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm
for
just
how
trying to
many
find
millions of
common
people
ground, Royd.
bought
I
his
mean-
record. I mean, he had to have been cool on some
Something.
level.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anybody who was
Everybody was humming his shit.
Right.
Back in the
and I
day.
mean, anybody who was looking for more like authenticity
Uh-huh.
in rap music, they
Yeah.
were probably looking at that Vanilla Ice
I'd be
stuff
like,
and going,
"Eh."
What the fuck is this?
Well, because the
Yeah.
whole thing that sparked it all was because they thought that he ripped off a part of MC Hammer's persona.
Well,
Right?
he did.
He went out, he got the parachute pants.
It was obvious.
He
Yeah.
could dance. He got the haircut, and they were like, "You are not going to be the vanilla version of my chocolate
Oh,
self."
poor Wagyu says, I follow Vanilla Ice YouTube channel with the sad face.
No, is it just me, guys?
If it's good for a Wagyu, it's good for
And
everyone.
Probe
Yeah.
says, Samurai does look like Ice a bit. And
Yeah,
he
he
does.
does. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
It's a Canadian
Okay.
version.
Okay.
Crazy Rabbit said he's the original Behringer.
Oh,
Ice.
shit.
Yeah. He's the
Damn.
original Uli Uli Uli.
Okay. You're working at the record shop.
Mhm.
You're getting immersed into reality is bigger and weirder and stranger than you. I don't know if you hope to believe or just couldn't conceive at the time before you started the record shop. What's the pinnacle moment you can think of working there? Like, what was your day where you were like, I'm on top of the world. This is exactly where I need to be. I'm that guy who can supply what people want. This is the highest life or point in my life right now.
I don't know if I've necessarily experienced a pinnacle or a zenith per se.
Mm-hmm.
But more often not, whenever I'm working during the holiday season and I'm getting a bunch of new people coming into my store, and they're shopping for their friends, their relatives, their children, etc. And sometimes when they come in, they just have no clue at all what exactly they're looking for. All they know is that they have this list of titles here of people that they've never heard of. The albums and their music, they're completely clueless, but they come to me with these lists, and typically what I do is, I look at these lists and I tell them, okay, tell you what I'll do. You can just wait right here at the counter. I'll go pluck these out of my stock here, and then I'll let you choose whichever ones that you want to get, and then whichever ones that you don't want to get, just give back to me, and then I'll put them away for you. I just try to streamline the process whenever possible. But it's always the people who are extremely appreciative of my help, and especially when it comes to recommendations, because it's something that I definitely like to have some just a little window of time to be able to think about, like whenever somebody comes into the store and they're like, I'm really into indie rock. I do like these specific artists, but I'm just kind of looking for a new path here. So I tell them, well, just kind of wait here, or actually no, I encourage them to look around first, and then they'll give me time to just kind of consult Google, because I've never been all that great at just plucking these bands and artists just out of the ether of my conscious mind. And when I do make these recommendations and they buy the album and then I see them again, they're like, man, that record really blew my mind. That just kind of set me off on this whole other path that I just never would have found for myself. Just having that kind of influence on people, I consider that to be the zenith.
You must feel like a deity,
a goddamn
of some
guru.
sort.
I don't know about deity per se.
You're a master at your craft,
but you're in a very unique situation, and music, I think we can all agree, it does something to our emotions, and it will sway us from one side to the other. So when someone is recommending something and you're looking at this person in front of you, you're almost like a deity of, hey, I can see you really love this and you really love this genre, and you're looking maybe to explore something close to it or outside of it. Try this. Person comes back, had a damn coming to Jesus moment, and then you get that. I don't know if you feed from it, but does it make you go, who's my next victim? Who else can I change in here?
Well, and
because it's
certainly
giving you positive feedback.
Well, yeah, I mean, it certainly inspires confidence within me that I'm where I need to be in this life.
Yeah,
because I mean, to be honest, there have definitely been times where I've had like the exact opposite interactions with people where they'll have like this propensity for rudeness, and it'll just seem to have, or at least occur in such a pattern where I'm just like, am I really going to be doing this for the rest of my life, like interacting with the people who are just merely there to just enjoy music just casually, like it's just always like in the background for them, like they don't really get like an emotional charge off of something like this. There have been times where I've definitely questioned whether or not I really am in the right place, but that's just more along the lines of just a sort of,
You think boredom?
well, maybe I don't know. Maybe just a sort of a existential crisis, maybe.
right.
I can see that.
Because I'm still young enough to where I don't know if this is like the end game for me. I'm just working in the record store for decades on then. It certainly has engendered a certain amount of anxiety within me. Like, am I destined for something greater? I mean, am I meant to make music of my own, to broadcast out to the masses, to be adorned? Am I meant to be a musician celebrity? Am I meant to be bigger than what I already am right now? I mean, it's certainly thoughts that just really toy with me sometimes.
I think it toys with a lot of people, right?
Right.
Sure.
So we have 1 more hour to go on this, and the questions are coming in the chat.
Okay.
Probes
I got mine written down.
wants to know, just for perspective, what is the population of the town that Colin's shop serves?
Ooh.
The population?
Yeah, I think he means like the demographic.
Or how many people? What's the count? Okay.
What's the
But I think it means like the demographics. Like, is it a good variety of Black people, Asians, Hispanics?
Well, yeah. I mean, it really is from all walks of life. I mean, I really can't say that I cater to any one specific demographic, because I would assume that most people think that maybe record stores are mainly kind of like an artifact of decades ago, where some of the I hate to use this term because it's almost kind of derogatory now these days, but like the boomers of the world, they're used to going into a record store in like the 70s or 80s, when the music industry was making like oceans of cash off of this stuff. And I mean, I guess to a certain degree it is primarily the older people who are coming into a record store and, you know, still buying CDs, or they just dug out their turntable and they're looking to get back into vinyl again. But I think most people would actually be very surprised to know that, you know, a lot of the youth are catching on to the, you know, the hipness of the record store. if you
Oh,
will.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have quite a lot of young people come through, and, you know, they're not always buying, you know, like Tyler, the Creator, or Travis Scott. I mean, sometimes they're coming in there for, you know, like classical music, or like the older 78s that have a bunch of big band jazz on them.
Oh, like
Yeah.
Glenn
I,
Miller. and
I
stuff.
saw that
Yeah.
when we
Ella
were
Fitzgerald.
there. When we were there with
Saw a Glenn Miller one.
no. I saw a group of young females,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and they weren't in the section that you would think
think they should be
that
in.
they would be.
Where were they at?
Yeah.
They were in. I think it was the classical, whatever that far side was where we were at.
Because on the back wall area, like on the left hand side, I have like soundtracks and musicals, and then on the right hand side, I have blues music.
They were, I think, on that side.
On the blues side.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, my customers can't necessarily be pigeonholed into any
Right.
one particular
You
area.
can't when it comes to
Right.
music because it's so wide and vast.
So is so.
And Probst,
Go
real
ahead,
quick,
go ahead.
before I forget, he was asking like population roughly, and I believe Wagyu answered, but it is 269,994 as of 2023
Gee, that's a lot of
in
people
Fort Wayne.
in Fort Wayne alone.
So what's the population that you think that record store serves? That part of Fort. I guess it would have to be all of Fort Wayne
yeah, but
because
it's
people just
all
drive
over.
to
how many
Yeah.
how many wooden nickels are there?
There are 3 of them in town.
Okay.
The one that was established in 1982 is located off of North Clinton Street.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, it was Slatewood Records in the 70s, and then my former business owner essentially took over that space. And from there, like at our peak as a company, we had at least 9 other locations, mostly in Fort Wayne. But, you know, we used to have like a Georgetown location, Southtown, even one over by DuPont Road, which was like closest to me. You know, I was only like 5 minutes away, and I used to beg my parents to take me to it all the time. But of course, when we get to like the late 90s, early 2000s, when, you know, Napster was, you know, becoming like the
Yeah.
main thing that people were consuming music.
Yeah, piracy. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, we definitely had to close a lot of stores around that time, and also, I can't help but think that maybe like 9/11 might have had something to do with
Oh,
that as
yeah.
well, because I mean, my former boss and I have definitely had conversations before about, you know, the general mindset of people. Like just in the aftermath of that, you know, they didn't want anything to do with music. And I mean, especially as, you know, Napster came into being, and then eventually you had like Apple Music offering downloads for like
Yeah.
a $1. You know, also like the LimeWire and FrostWires of the world. I mean, the way people consume music, I mean, having a physical copy of something was definitely not the priority anymore.
Right.
Especially as our economic situation was kind of worsening in like the very late 2000s, early 2010s. You know, we were definitely in recession, and people were definitely prioritizing, you know, making sure that, you know, food was on the table, that
Yeah.
they still
Right.
had a
Yeah.
roof
Yeah.
over their
Yeah.
heads.
Right.
And, you know, if they could get this music for free somehow, some way, though, that's probably what they were going to
The
do.
old bootleg
definitely.
action.
So the
Damn.
wooden nickel went from 9 stores down to 3
Eventually, yes.
eventually.
Because the location where I work is North Anthony Boulevard, and it's the main vinyl store. And we actually used to have that location off of Crescent Avenue, which was about roughly a quarter mile away. But we moved to the North Anthony location about roughly 23, 24 years ago. And then we have a third location out in the Village of Time Corners in the West Jefferson area.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
But are there any down south in Indianapolis?
no, it's just
No,
the
it's just
just the
up
3
here.
stores here in Fort
Okay.
Wayne, Indiana.
Hey, for Fort Wayne, is that the only record store? Is Wood and Nickel?
Well, there's also Welcome Back Records off of Calhoun Street. I believe they're across the way from the St. Vincent de Paul. It's almost like a thrift store,
Oh,
if
okay.
you will. Formerly, they were Neat, also off of Calhoun Street. I've gotten to know the owner of that place, and I mean, he's always a blast to talk with. I very much enjoy his company, and his selections have always been very interesting. He definitely has a lot of like very obscure, maybe say hipster oriented,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Oh, okay.
older jazz albums.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're really into jazz,
You ever hear of-
definitely check them out. Sometime.
Yeah.
You ever hear of a
okay.
band called Yusuf Days?
Yusuf, I did actually sell a copy of Black Classical Music to somebody a few weeks back.
Oh, wow.
man.
Yeah.
Damn.
Probes has a question.
Okay.
Wait, no, I already did that. So Tone Smith, question is, do you like the new Turnstile record?
I do. I feel as well. If I do have any one criticism for it, it's that it almost kind of sounds like a direct sequel to Glow On. Because initially, when I was hearing the singles, leading up to the release, this song reminded me, or like Seeing Stars reminded me of like a slightly different form of Underwater Boy, or the title track Never Enough, almost kind of sounding holiday-ish. And I mean, it's great for what it is. And for a moment, I was honestly kind of scared that maybe they were moving more into a mainstream pop accessible oriented version of what they are already doing. But for the most part, I mean, I find that it has a lot of replay enjoyment. Like it could definitely have some longevity to it in the years to come. And I feel as though they've definitely refined their sound to the point where, they're becoming more eclectic in their range. I mean, there's definitely some ambient passages in that new Turnstile album. I mean, probably one of my favorite parts was for the longest song on that album. I'm blanking on the title at the moment, but about halfway through, there is a sample that the band took from the show The Wire. You gonna look out for me?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was HBO, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's my favorite series of all time, and hearing that, I was like, this band is definitely on the right path.
Is that what Idris Elba was in that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy Rabbit has a question.
I got one too.
I
We can
have
squeeze it in.
Wagyu first.
All right.
Okay.
He says, I'm curious how much exposure Colin has to the second largest music industry in the world, Japan. It's not the kind of thing he'd get in the record store much, I think.
Well, I mean, when it comes to certain Japanese artists and albums, I mean, trying to get imports of those is, easier said than done. Because, I mean, when I was initially starting at Wood and Nickel, we had at least 3 different distributors that we were going through. And, sometimes they had a wider variety in terms of imports. But unfortunately, they either, closed down altogether or they were folded into our main distributor now, which is known as AEC or WebAMI, Alliance Entertainment. So there are certain Japanese imports that we could get a hold of, but more often than not, it's limited quantity and they are very expensive.
Ooh, really?
Now, just as an example, the Japanese producer Nujabes, who unfortunately passed away about 15 years ago, there was a record label that had reissued albums of his like Modal Soul and the Hideout Collection's second collection and like one other of them. I mean, it's definitely the kind of album that I could move easier if it wasn't like $60, per title. And also other Japanese artists like Ryo Fukui, the jazz pianist. I sell scenery just all the time. I mean, people really pick up on stuff like that. And like the Pacific Breeze volumes that Light in the Attic Records were doing, the 3 volumes. Again, hideously expensive, but people really show an interest in them and like picking up on them.
That goes to my question real quick, man. It's me.
Yep.
It's what's the rarest record and how much? Is there an allocated record?
Well, in terms of rare records, the one that immediately comes to mind, of course, would be the Beatles' Yesterday and Today, where it's them in butcher uniforms. It's otherwise known as the butcher cover, which, they did press up a few thousand of those, way back in the 60s, but eventually it was discontinued for how unhinged it looked. I mean, personally, it's one of my favorite album covers just because of how hilarious it is to me. But yeah, trying to find an original butcher cover of that particular album, it might as well be like trying to hunt down a blood diamond.
Wow.
And how much you think that album is worth?
Well, the last time we were able to get a hold of that particular album, I believe it sold for $1,200.
Okay, so how about
For the
one,
Beatles, Yesterday and Today.
Yeah, the original butcher
Wow.
cover.
How about for Mint?
So
in the
I'm
plastic?
sharing that cover album if anybody wants to see it.
Oh
On
shit!
there.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
I love how they just have the baby heads everywhere. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I just love how totally unhinged George Harrison in particular looks. He kind
Yeah.
of looks like a deranged baby killer, and Paul looks obviously as high as he's ever been in his life, and so does John Lennon, and
Yeah, they do.
Ringo Starr's kind of in the
That's-
background, kind of doing like, eh.
So how much is that, you think, in the plastic?
Oh, and the plastic, man, I couldn't even begin to guess. Because when it comes to collectibles like that, I mean, it's
It's
strictly
pure
a-
nostalgic, money driven. Like
Oh,
if you have the
absolutely.
money, sky's the limit.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I mean, there are quite a lot of people out there with a lot of disposable income. I couldn't even put a dollar amount on how much like a new sealed, still in the plastic
Yeah.
copy of that could go.
Have you ever known an album to go for over $1 million?
Ooh, I don't think so. I mean, maybe an original pressing of Prince's Black Album from 1987. I mean, that also would fetch quite a lot of money.
Okay.
How about any Elvis member? Like, you think an Elvis album can hold that weight or no?
I suppose it depends on the title. Like the self-titled debut from '56. If something like that was still sealed in its plastic and had been in a hermetically sealed environment, something like that could definitely fetch a pretty penny or two, so to speak.
Jesus.
So I have this is from HMV.com website. I have the 10 most expensive vinyl records ever sold. And Colin, let us know what you think. Frank Wilson, Do I Love You? Indeed I Do, went for 25,000 euros.
Woo!
Wow, I mean, I gotta be honest. That's a new one to me. I've never heard of that guy.
What? I stumped you?
shit.
What?
Well, again, to reiterate, I'm largely a student here. I like to think I know a lot, but I'm always surprised
Oh, you know
by,
a lot, trust me.
I'm always surprised by just how much I can still learn on it.
Yeah,
on a regular
and that's
basis.
awesome. Number 9 is Tommy Johnson, Alcohol and Jake Blues, $37,000.
Jesus.
Now, see, is that like an older blues record? Is that like a 78 RPM
It says
record?
it sold a 78 RPM blues
Okay.
record. Fetched over 37,000
Oh, wow.
in 2013.
Oh, wow. Fairly recent.
When a Oregon-based record collector shelled out for a super rare copy of Alcohol and Jake Blues, released on the Paramount label in 1930.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, I try to learn as much as I can about a wide variety of genres and everything, but
This is
that's
just
to say
educating
that-
you.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
to say that
This is
I still
locking-
have my blind spots.
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
course.
This is going to lock something in for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
sure.
crazy. Number 8 was Apex Twin
Oh,
caustic
yeah.
window.
Apex Twin, yeah.
Test pressing for 46,300.
Good God.
That's a dollar amount.
Yeah. Number 7, The Beatles, Till There Was You, for 77,000 euros.
Was that a 7-inch single, or was it like a
let's see.
European,
Let's
maybe
see,
a generic
a
label?
10-inch
Oh,
of
okay.
early demo by the Fab Four featuring the song. It was sold for that amount to an unnamed buyer in March of 2016.
Damn.
So this is probably somebody who just wants it for nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
They can afford it.
I mean,
Yes.
I imagine if the Quarrymen, the band that existed before the Beatles, because John Lennon was a part of that. If ever they laid down something to tape and eventually received a vinyl pressing, I can imagine something like
And
that would.
It is. They have a picture of it. It is autographed by John Lennon.
Oh, well,
hell,
So there you go.
There.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then number 6 on the list is the one that you just talked about, the Yesterday and Today,
Mm-hmm.
for $125,000.
Holy
Good
God. Moly.
Well, see, there you go.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and that was in February of 2013. Number 5 on the list is John Lennon and Yoko Ono, Double Fantasy, for $150,000.
It's getting up there. The price is getting
Yep.
up there.
Yeah, we're
Was
going.
it the copy that Mark David Chapman had John Lennon sign,
let's see.
minutes before he was killed?
It's right. It's often the case that one copy of an LP can differ hugely in value from the next as the result of some defining features that makes it more rare, whether that's a printing error or a signature. In the case of this copy of John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Double Fantasy, sold in 1999 for an astonishing $150,000, the marqueterie details that rendered it so valuable was the fact that it had been signed by Lennon himself just hours before his death on December 8th, 1980.
Oh, that makes
Wow.
it a gem.
Spot on, Colin. Spot
Wow.
on.
Maybe that could have been Mark David
Right.
Chapman's copy. Who knows?
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
That's insane. Number 4 on the list, the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts
Oh,
Club
yeah.
Band,
Okay.
signed by all 4 Beatles, went for $290,000.
We're getting up there, Meryl.
Getting up there.
The next one, number 3, is Elvis Presley.
I knew that son of
My
a bitch.
Happiness,
Yeah, I knew it.
for $300,000.
Holy
Shit.
shamoly.
That sold while bought the test pressing of Elvis Presley, first ever recorded at auction in December 2015, using it to make a limited edition facsimile, which he duly released through Third Man Records, complete with all the pops and scratches and even a plain brown paper bag as a sleeve, because he said that's what Elvis would have walked out of Sun Records with. So that's how
Wow.
they sold it. That's
That's
crazy.
phenomenal, man.
Yeah. Number 2 on the list,
Oh, my God.
the Beatles
Again.
White Album for $790,000.
We're getting to that million.
We
Colin.
are.
We're getting to the million.
Yep, and that sold in album from 1968, and it's
Jimi Hendrix, number 1, I bet.
in December 2015. Nobody will guess number 1.
Michael Jackson.
No,
Not even. Okay.
no.
Something we would
One
not.
of your favorite groups
Mm-hmm.
as a young kid. Classic. I mean, there's
Cool in
Paul
the Gang.
Simon.
Cool in the Gang.
Paul Simon.
no rap.
Cool in the Gang.
Rap?
Yep.
Oh. Grandmaster.
The Wu-Tang.
Yep.
The
Spot on.
Wu-Tang is
Oh.
killing it.
Oh,
Once
which-
upon a time in
Yep.
Shaolin, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
There you go. You
Oh,
got
my
it, Colin.
God.
Okay,
Spot
so-
on, Colin.
How
Hey,
much?
$2 million.
We surpassed my one. Is this the album that had the great story behind the lawsuit where this guy bought it and they wanted the album back?
Martin Shkreli.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is the buyer turned out to be the controversial touring pharmaceutical CEO, Martin Shkreli. That's who bought it
Damn.
for $2 million.
So who has the album now?
Did Wu-Tang ever get it back?
Well,
Because I know there was a big, huge lawsuit and stuff. I don't know if he ever sold it back to them, or did they ever
yeah,
get
I
the
mean,
rights
trying
to
to
it?
trace the journey of that album it might be a little difficult, but my understanding is that nobody's going to be allowed to hear it until a certain year. Like this is
Yeah,
going to be
but-
like at least 80 years down the road.
Did-
And last I heard,
Yeah.
wow.
I know there was the lawsuit, right? They
Exactly.
they sued him and stuff, but I
Yeah.
don't remember what the outcome was to it. Did he sell it back with
well, I think it might have been seized by the feds once he got busted
right?
for any number of things that he
Yeah.
was probably doing around that time.
Did it get given back to?
Dallas said
The
Wu-Tang
Wu-Tang.
got it back.
Okay.
They did get it
Yeah,
back.
check
Okay,
our
that's
text messages.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
but they can't play it or
so
Slew Tang ain't
so
nothing
wait,
to
so
fuck
so
with.
Wu Tang surpassed the Beatles. Let's think about that.
Yeah, because there's only one copy of it in
Right.
existence.
Yeah.
Right.
And Shkreli had put like certain clips of the music up on like his, I don't know if it was like a YouTube channel that he had, you know, certain snippets of the songs.
Do we know who the players were? Inspector Det? Was it Like, do we know if it was Jizza on there? Like, Old Dirty Bastard?
It
Crazy
could
Rabbit
very
said
well have been
RDB
Yeah.
all the
album.
Wu-Tang Clan
Right.
members and some of the affiliates too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh man, this
Yeah.
is a huge album.
Okay.
$2 million.
Okay. Was there any more questions from?
Let me see if chat has any more.
Because we're gonna take the next few minutes and go into a different
I don't
topic. Last
see any.
topic.
I know Rabbit had a question about if there was any shoplifters. Like, do
Yeah. What
bash
would
them
you
in
do
the
with a
head?
shoplifter? Would you beat their head in like Rabbit suggests?
Don't ever
Quite
listen-
curious.
Don't ever listen. to
Allegedly.
Rabbit.
Well, since you mentioned it,
Oh, okay.
about maybe a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago,
It wasn't
I did
us.
actually,
We were there
I
a few
did
weeks
actually have a couple of shoplifters. To
Really? How
deal
did they
with.
come out with a damn album?
I forward you money.
Well,
why would you?
It was CDs that they
Oh,
were lifting.
okay.
You know, the CDs that were still in the cages too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was a couple of younger kids from the school that's just adjacent from where I work, and I'm assuming that they would come over after school, so about 3:30, 3:45 ish in the middle of the afternoon, and I guess my first hint that they were probably ne'er-do-wells up to no good was the poor grammar that they were using. Like, hey, where do you got your 9 Inch Nails CDs at?
Yeah.
Something along those
Colin's
lines.
just identified what we call niggas.
Yeah, for real.
Go ahead, Colin. We're listening.
I like your interpretation of a
Niggas.
where do you have like yo 9
Where? How old you
Well,
was?
ironically, it was actually a shorter, scrawnier white kid. That,
Same thing.
that
Oh,
asked
same
me
thing.
that.
Doesn't have a color tie to it.
Yeah, it doesn't have a color tie to it.
Yeah,
You see, that's the misconception. When we say niggas, that means everybody of an ignorant motherfucking mind.
That's a good way of putting it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's in the definition. Look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dallas corrected himself and said that Wu-Tang did not acquire that album. So
Oh.
I went back and looked, and Martin. So it was owned by the pharma, quote unquote, from our bro. 'Cause that's what they call
Bro,
him. Yeah. That's what they internet nicknamed him, and later acquired by an online art collector for $4 million.
Oh,
wow.
So Martin Shkreli essentially doubled his profits.
Profit.
Oh my
Which
god.
probably paid for all his fucking legal fees.
Oh my god.
But you would think, are they ever going to get the album back?
Wu-Tang?
Yeah,
They would probably have to come up with $8 million.
Oh, they got that.
they got it.
Yeah.
RZA's got
like,
that, no problem.
You like to think.
Yeah,
at
RZA
least.
even has a new movie coming out soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
that.
Maybe it's
Have you
just not
seen
worth
the,
it to him.
Yeah, have you seen the series on Hulu, the Wu-Tang? They did
Oh,
like
it
a
was
live...
like a sort of biopic.
yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, series. I never
Yeah.
watched
Me
it.
either.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
they
was
have 2
great.
seasons. We watched the first one. We
Was it
got to
good?
watch the second one. Yeah, it was really good.
I gotta
It's
watch
really
it.
good, and
Yeah.
they literally followed the original clan members to get their demeanor, and it was solid, man. It was solid. We have another question before we go into something else. Tone Smith has a question, Meryl.
Sure. Colin, what are a couple of your favorite records from the last 12 months or so?
Oh, from the last 12 months? Well, because as a part of my radio show, like in June and December, I do like to offer like a mid-year and like a yearly retrospective on some of the stuff that's come out. My album of the year so far is the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets album, Carpe Diem Moon Man. It's like a harder rock, a psychedelic rock oriented group. I believe they're Australian, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they definitely have a sort of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard vibe to them, but I feel as though they're.
I have no fucking clue who King Gizzard and the Lizard vibe is, just so you know.
I honestly do sell their stuff quite often at the store.
Sound like it was a blues album or something. No?
Well,
why do I remember King Gizzard the Wizard as a blues? A
genre
white
is it?
blues guy.
well, they've definitely dabbled in a lot of different genres over the years. I mean, I can only assume that blues rock is probably one of them that they've done on one of their many previous albums. And I mean, they've released like 5 albums in 2017, if that gives you an idea of what their output is like.
Holy
But yeah, they've
Roy
also
Joy-
done thrash metal, heavy metal, psychedelic
man.
rock,
Roy
garage
George Void
rock.
says King Gizzard is cool. And then Tone Smith says, Lamar, you dig him.
Ooh,
Oh, shit.
that's it. I'm going down a rabbit hole. Rabbit, not your hole. But I'm going to go down the rabbit hole tonight and YouTube that shit.
One of our moderators is asking, does Colin know who the new, I can't see that, Caledonia is? Caledonia.
You got me on that one. That's a new one for me. But some other records that I've been really enjoying, that have been released within the last 6 to 12 months, give or take, also would have to be. Honestly, I really enjoyed the most recent Lady Gaga album, Mayhem, because I'd literally never listened to her material before. I'd always been encouraged to, but for whatever reason, I just got distracted by this artist, that band, etc. But Mayhem was a very solid album. I mean, it helps that it was, inspired and influenced by 9 Inch Nails. Definitely has that vibe to it.
I like
for
what
sure.
she stands for. She's like totally conscious person.
Yeah.
I've always very
Right.
much respected her as a both a singer, artist, persona. Another one would be Swan's album, Birthing. They just recently came out with that a couple weeks ago. It's like this mammoth, almost 2-hour-long album. There's only 7 songs on it.
Oh, wow.
That sounds like
That
something we would
sounds
do.
like
That's-
something we would do there,
Yeah.
Baba.
That's right, boo boo.
Yeah.
Well, some of it is kind of ambient drone.
That's again, Baba.
yeah,
It sounds
that's-
like something we would
That's
do.
right, boo boo. God damn it, you're right.
Wagyu says, I liked the first big Lady Gaga album, but not kept up with her stuff. Yeah, I like her stuff.
I mean, if Lady Gaga fans have been kind of out of touch with her output in recent years, I mean, definitely give Mayhem a go. My understanding is that it is like her best work in many
What's
years.
the message behind Mayhem? What do you think the overall message is? Synopsis.
I mean, I haven't listened to it closely for the lyrics per se. Whenever I'm streaming music in the store, it's more like taking in the music and seeing if the music itself provokes an emotional reaction out of me. Because I almost kind of hate to say this, but ironically, the stores are not really the best place to experience something for the first time because we have speakers in the 4 corners of the store, but at the same time, there's a bunch of empty space where a lot of the smaller details of the songs and the music kind of get lost into it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've checked out an album in the store. I thought, well, okay, sure, fine. But then when I check it out on either headphones or in the speakers in my living room, I'm like,
Yeah.
You're like, I have almost
It's
missed
like
out.
Yeah.
It's like I'm listening to it again for the first time. I mean, Charlie XCX's Brat was that album for me where I streamed it in the store for the first time. Like, I mean, it's okay.
Right.
But then when I, experienced it in my living room for the first time, I'm like, how did I miss out on this?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it
I tell
sounds
you,
fantastic. What
when
was
I finally
doing at
get
the
a
time?
when I finally get a record player, I am going to play that Bonnevere self-titled album. And when it gets to Perth and Holocene, I forgot how he pronounces it. Oh, it's gonna sound so good. Only because it's gonna be on needle. You know what I mean? Like when
Exactly.
it takes a whole different turn
Right.
when you listen to what was on CD to be on an album. And if you know the whole album, you know it's gonna be legit.
Well, yeah, I mean, streaming is great for just casual listening, just trying something out. But, it really depends on how you're streaming it in the first place. Because I guess with some older albums, the mix, the mastering tends to be a lot quieter. But for the new albums, the ones that are just coming out, they definitely have like the full force effect to them.
Yeah.
Just as an example, the Stooges Funhouse album, I mean, it's easily one of my favorite rock records of all time, but when you're streaming it on Spotify, it definitely sounds a lot quieter than what you experience it on like a CD or a vinyl. And even the song Dirt, for whatever reason, is mastered so much more quieter than the rest of the album. I'm not sure exactly what they ripped that material from.
Yeah.
But when you get to like the more modern music, it tends to be mastered to where it maybe not necessarily brick walled, because I do remember the loudness wars being a thing in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. I feel as though they've gotten better at that. They've kind of backed off from not just brick walling everything. They want the music to have some sort of dynamic effect to it, allow the different parts to just kind of breathe.
Right. Okay. We're gonna have you back, so we're gonna give you some closing questions.
Okay.
Okay. And now that I know you're willing to come back, we
we could probably have you back next.
You wanna
next
come
week.
back
Are you
next
back
week?
next Sunday?
Next Sunday?
Yeah.
I could do that.
Okay.
What are your days off actually?
Well, my days off are Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if we can have them on earlier
Right.
for more of our UK folks, because right now it's like 1:30 in the morning for them.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll stay in contact.
Yeah.
The sooner we get you back, the better.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to lose what we've been
miss
talking
out.
about.
Yeah.
And you're such a very interesting person. We'd be fools not to have you back ASAP.
Yeah, everybody is like, I know a whole bunch of people have so
Yeah.
many more questions.
Right.
And,
And so here's the first question.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you outside your name? Now, I implore you, I feel like I have to say this,
You don't, and you shouldn't.
and I probably shouldn't.
Just let them answer.
Okay. Who are you outside your name?
Well, I mean, defining oneself is kind of like this, never-ending journey, really. I mean, it's really even hard to just kind of even know yourself sometimes. I mean, I'm just kind of a generally quiet person. I try to live or at least live in such a way where I can feel comfortable with my surroundings. Sometimes that means just kind of doing the same things over and over again. I mean, every once in a while, like now, for instance, I can be persuaded to try something different. I mean, I do tend to be, very, very introverted. I don't necessarily trust people easily. I do have a certain cynicism towards humanity as a whole, but I try not to let that, color my worldview. It's a really interesting question to answer, because I mean,
We don't
I'm sorry.
offer much context to it, and it means
Well,
something different to everyone. So, I mean, you're doing great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is just try on a daily basis to just keep myself disciplined, keep my household clean, do the best I can do with running the record store, which I'm very passionate about. I do take my work very seriously. I do also like to have fun with what I do. I like to try different things. I do like to play music in the store that might be somewhat unpalatable to a wider audience. To that extent, I mean, whenever I'm like in a larger crowd, I can't help but have like this undercurrent of nervousness always running through me, because my experiences with people have been, kind of mixed. I'll be completely honest. I mean, I've encountered a lot of great people in my time. I've also encountered a lot of people where I'm like, man, how has Darwinism just not had its effect on you?
Matt, look, there's a reason why
damn.
we don't venture out too much,
Right.
Because we're on the same.
We're on the same plane.
I'll tell you what,
We're
if-
like,
if-
how is this possible?
Yeah.
You're still
Yeah.
here.
If you insulted a nigga with that type of conduct that you just said right there,
Uh-huh.
he would not have understood
Understood
one
one
goddamn
damn
thing
thing
you
you
have
said.
said.
Yeah,
He wouldn't have known. He would have been insulted.
Yeah.
Okay.
RDV was asking, he's like, I may have missed this earlier, but does Colin play instruments? And yes, he does. Self-taught on bass
And guitar.
Bass and guitar.
Bass.
Yeah, but my dad had a Washburn guitar that
Oh, nice.
I incorporated for myself. And then when I was a teenager, I want to say 16, 17, that's when he got an Ibanez bass
Oh,
for
there
me
you go.
for the
Mhm. Yeah.
local pawn shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely around that time I was into a lot of like sludge metal oriented material. So I definitely wanted that very deep fuzz sound to it.
Right.
I mean,
drive. Yeah.
back when I was really messing around with GarageBand, I almost kind of wanted to invent a new genre, which was kind of like sludge gaze, if you will.
That's what-
Maybe you
Maybe
bring
you
your
should-
instruments here and let us hear
the
what
next
you're
time,
doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a mixer for you. You plug right in. I mean, what the hell? Like,
Oh, that would be really cool.
I won't be here Sunday, but
yeah.
No, we're gonna try to get him on one of his days off, so we can go
Oh,
live
earlier.
earlier for
Yeah.
UK folks.
that's right.
Mhm.
That's what we're gonna do.
Last question. And like, just go with us on this.
Okay.
I think he's been coming.
Do-
with us.
yeah, right.
This whole
Right,
fucking
it's-
time, the
it's
guy's
fine.
strapped in. That's
This is a consciousness question.
Okay.
Do you think we're more to our bodies? Do you think our consciousness just uses these bodies as nothing but a mere avatar? Are we living in some sort of construct?
Like in terms of, the collective consciousness.
or
Essentially
your
the body
representation.
being a
your
vessel.
your representation of that.
Yeah.
Without context from us, what's your belief?
Well, I mean, I do tend to be a little more spiritual more than religious. Because, I mean, I was raised into the Catholic Church, and eventually after a while, I just disagreed with a lot of the fundamental aspects of that. So for at least a few years, I was just kind of, taking to atheism and just not really acknowledging a wider, spiritual aspect, in terms of like, humanity's consciousness, essentially. But I don't necessarily believe in the Christian God per se, but I do believe in a cosmic force that could be interpreted as God that, causes interesting things to happen in our day-to-day lives. A God that, sometimes looks out for us in times of need and want. Certainly times of, a lot of challenges, to really fortify who you are as a person and how you deal with things. So, I mean, I'm definitely agnostic to that degree. I definitely have a wider interpretation of what all this consciousness entails. How other people just kind of go about their day-to-day lives, and I mean, I don't really even know if they think about that kind of thing. I don't know if the average person really takes stock into how they fit into the larger parts of humanity. I don't know if they think about a cosmic force that both looks out for them and challenges them.
What you mean is the universe.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, in essence.
In
Something
essence.
something broader, something greater than ourselves.
Sure.
So
Everybody in the chat is super excited to have Colin come back on, and especially if he's willing to bring one of his instruments and play.
Absolutely.
Everybody
Ooh.
thinks it's a great
Great idea.
idea,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
can't wait for it.
yeah.
I can't help but feel I might embarrass myself.
No,
Oh,
not
no,
on sword
Yeah.
you don't.
Not here you
doubt
don't.
Not on
I
sword you
doubt
don't.
it.
And even if it was what you consider bad, you'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised.
And you can come early and
Warm up.
warm up, get
and-
get
yeah.
comfortable with everything.
Smoke a
before-
joint with us if you need to.
Yeah.
I don't
Before
know
we
what a
even-
Colin does.
before we even go live.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
and then Roy Droid Void. I'm pinning a link to one of his jams that he did. He really would like it if you check it out.
Okay.
Because he says it's very sludgy. He calls it syrupy.
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 Good God, Royd.
A dirty syrupy.
A dirty birdie
Yeah,
syrupy.
and we may just close out with playing that as our outro.
Let's
There
do
you go.
that. Let's
Yeah.
do that. You want
Yeah.
to close out with that?
Yeah.
We have 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
so-
Okay.
Wait, before you start there, I like a little humor. I'm a humorous guy. So humor me.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, in your teens, you ever try beating off with both hands just to see which one works out better?
damn.
You don't have to answer.
Being ambidextrous.
Yeah.
That's a damn fine question.
You ever go, this one's a little better than this one?
I
Yeah.
love how Colin just made that so fucking professional. Do you mean being ambidextrous?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I'm definitely right-handed.
Yeah.
So you have tried and true tested these methods.
Sure.
So you are human.
Yeah.
So you are
There
human.
you go.
Colin, you ever sit on your left hand for like maybe 15 minutes and
then-
then fondle yourself?
And call it the
Okay.
stranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Call it a stranger.
I have a question
Yeah.
much more serious than this,
Okay.
but very important.
Go ahead.
How are you now health wise?
Health-wise, I'm doing much better than where I was like about 3 months ago when all this started for me. Because I do still have occasional discomfort in my lower abdomen area, which is where it occurred. And fortunately, surgery is not really necessary for me. Because I've been told that in order for surgeons to want to operate on you for an aortic dissection, it has to be at least 5 centimeters, and mine is only 2.
Okay.
But you know, I'm definitely getting better. But whether or not I'm gonna ever be like 100% back to where I was before all of this, I'm coming around to the notion that maybe not. But I am doing a lot better these days. I'm definitely improving my diet.
Are you walking? Walking does wonders.
Oh, absolutely. Because in the time where I was recovering at home, my primary care physician definitely encouraged me to just, go out walking, which is already what I like to do anyway. I like to go walk along the Wise Public Trail and, just let the music just act as a form of sustenance to me.
Right.
Just
Meditation.
keeping me going.
Yeah.
And it by the time my legs and feet really start to hurt, that's when I'm like, okay, I really need to turn back now.
Yeah.
But I
Listen to your body, man.
I've just walked miles and miles. I mean, it's not really uncommon for me to do at least 4 miles.
Yeah. It's good.
I mean,
It's-
probably the most I ever did was about like 6.5 to 7 miles.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
That's really good.
That's about what we do.
I don't like to run, but I
No,
definitely-
no,
Yeah.
no.
A brisk walk.
Yeah.
The most I've done was 12, and that was up this path here.
Probe said, "Thank you,
Wow.
Colin. He seems like a really decent chap.
Yeah.
Everybody is really enjoyed this interview and are definitely excited to have you come back.
Yeah.
So
I
you
certainly love and appreciate that.
So
Yeah.
you let us know if Tuesday, which day works best for you.
Okay.
I think for us, Tuesday may be the only day because Wednesday you have to take the truck in early to the shop and
And I
then
got
you have
horses.
horses right
Yeah.
after.
Um,
So Wednesday is out of the question.
yeah,
So hopefully
so
your Tuesday is good and
Tuesday,
then you can
we could do
come
yeah,
back.
I might have to juggle some things around, but I can make that happen.
yeah, but just make it work for you.
Yeah,
If this
make it work
doesn't,
for
if
you.
next Tuesday doesn't work, we can do the following
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
make it work for you. We barely scratched the surface with Colin.
Barely. I still got tons of things.
We
to
have
ask.
tons of questions. I still want to ask him about his psychedelic experiences.
Oh, we will definitely ask him about that.
There's still tons of I would like to know what he thinks about digital life versus the vinyl life. Where hip hop is going in his mind. What happened to 90s rock? Why don't we see something like that on the same grounds today?
And I want to know is I want to ask him, not don't answer, but how many people are still buying 90s hip hop? Like I'm so curious to see how relevant it is today.
Is that still setting
lot.
away?
Shut up.
Because that means something. But yeah,
I am. Let's see. I'm queuing up.
The Roy Droidness.
Yes.
Okay.
So give me 1 second.
Yeah, this is going to be great. You're probably one of our, I'm going to say it, and not to put any of our old in-house guests down, but
Yeah,
you're one of my favorites,
yeah,
man.
definitely.
One of our favorite in-house guests.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have to pull teeth, right?
But it's just the level of
Nail it.
confidence
Yes.
and
And
elegance.
trust.
Yes.
and-
Trust that he
yeah.
put in us.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing. Great.
You,
interview. I can see why you have the radio show.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
You're
I mean,
kind of a natural.
well, I mean, when the start of the show comes, even though I've been doing this for over a year and a half now, I still get that,
Oh, the
nervousness.
That nervousness.
the butterflies.
56,
Yeah.
56.
Do you want to plug yourself on NP? You're on NPR, right?
89.1 WBOI, which is the local NPR news and music
Okay.
station.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, I'm on Sidetracks every single Saturday night from 9 to 11 o'clock, and we just play.
Oh, we gotta
Anything and
check
everything.
you out.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet your show is magnanimous.
I bet
Yeah.
y'all didn't know that either. The guy works for NPR. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, let's go.
I'm using big words like magnanimous.
Yeah.
Is your show magnanimous?
Well, I mean, we certainly try to cover a lot of ground, and I try to educate as well as entertain.
You see there?
That's
see that?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. When you get back onto that NPR radio station, can you play me one song that would make me very, very happy?
What song is that?
The Verve, the Sonnet song.
Verve
Sonnet.
Sonic.
Yeah.
Sonnet.
Sonic.
Yeah, Sonnet.
Okay.
Have you ever heard that
Well,
track?
of course, I'm familiar with.
The Verve, Richard Ashcroft.
Yeah. I've been
Okay.
Bittersweet Symphony. Of
Bittersweet.
course.
And so the next track on that album is Sonnet.
Sonnet.
Yeah.
From the Urban Hymns album.
Yeah. Oh
97.
my
Okay.
God, I love that fucking album.
Yeah.
Yeah. With
Alrighty.
the wallabies they had in that picture sitting on the grass.
The dress code was phenomenal.
Damn, Richard
Well, if
Ashcroft.
anything, I could do like a sort of a Britpop segment that would fit in well with the Verve.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
gotta
I
listen
don't know
to
if
it
I-
on Saturday.
And some
on this
David
coming
Gray,
Saturday,
dude.
Saturday
Some
night.
David
He
Gray.
ain't gonna remember all this shit.
David Gray would kill it.
But you
Yeah.
have his number and stuff. So
I
of
got
course-
it. Yeah. So send us the information again.
Yeah,
Can
and
you
then-
put it in chat so our chat can know where to listen, where to find this?
Yeah, and then
we'll
I'll
put it
post
in
it in
Discord
Discord
as
as
well.
Yeah.
We'll
play
okay.
some Yusuf Days too.
Yusuf
Turquoise.
Days. Oh my, he's going in. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get too crazy, here's Roy Droy Void.
Yep.
We will see you guys tomorrow after Hardware Jams. More than likely, we'll be going on late to try to appease some of the U.S. listeners.
Yeah.
And try to balance the scales with the U.K. and the U.S. Check out Synth Samurai, Hans Volt, The Machines One, Echo Craft, Roy Droy Void, Crazy Rabbit. Check out Wagyu, Probes, Sounds of Synth, Gracie,
Uncle Chrome,
Everybody.
Jervis,
Everybody.
Jervis,
and
PSN.
Yes, and thank you so much,
And the
Colin,
Pugness.
for coming on. It was so much fun.
Thank you very much for having me.
Super excited to have you back. And then again, what was the radio station?
89.1 WBOI.
89.1. Okay.
Well, boy.
What boy?
89.1
Yeah.
WB
OI.
OI. Okay.
Yep.
OI.
Yeah. And definitely check out Tone Smith. I don't know if he has content up on YouTube, but he does send me content from Instagram, I believe.
Yes,
I'll
he
double
does-
check that.
He does.
And then we'll get you on our Discord so you could be a part of the Discord and people can also put
Interact with
other
you.
thoughts in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you'll love this community. Most of them are musicians. They are very smart individuals.
and I just posted the link for the radio station.
Can you get on your show and say, hey, this is DJ Easy Dick on KJAS W Balls?
Probably not.
Can you do that?
I mean, given that it's public radio, maybe
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably
tone it
not.
down.
Is there-
Yeah,
a little
okay.
bit,
Okay.
Is there
but-
any way you could plug Symptoms of
Of Reality.
Reality?
No,
You're-
probably.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Well, yeah, I could certainly mention you guys.
Awesome.
this
Yeah, that'd be-
podcast. Talking about sidetracks and just anything. having to
Anything,
do with
consciousness.
music.
Yeah, and to have
yeah.
them go watch your
Yeah.
interview.
And watch the interview.
Oh, so they can meet the DJ.
Yeah. We didn't ask anything
Oh.
crazy.
Put a face to the voice.
Put a face to the
Yeah,
voice.
that'd
You
be
guys want to
amazing.
check me out? I'm on Symptoms of Reality
Yep.
podcast. You can meet the DJ.
Yeah.
That would be great.
And mention a Wagyu, because Wagyu most of all, because
Yeah.
Wagyu has spent many, many hours invested into you, and he's not done with you yet by a long stretch of the
no.
imagination.
I don't think any
He
of
didn't
our viewers
even he
are.
didn't even scratch your head yet. He's probably going to go in on you. We'll just give Wagyu a chance.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
we need to have you back on.
We need to have you back
earlier
on. Earlier
for a
we'll do
longer,
this.
longer
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
As I always say when we sign off, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen,
Play by.
love, bye.
Bye. And here we go. Roy Void.